Bah-weep-Graaaaagnah, weep ninny bong. Of all the places in the universe, and you stumbled upon a man in a shirt. Today is a very special day for a man in a shirt, because today is the 4-year anniversary of everyone's favorite background noise on a man in a shirt, Lucy's City. It's been 4 years since I started the project. Today is July 10th, 2018, so that's 4 years since the date of our first release. So today I just wanted to go around, talk about Lucy City, what projects are going on. I did a thing last night with Lucy City. We'll talk about that here in a bit. It's been a lot going on, a lot happening, and a lot in the future. So I thought we would dive into that. Just so everyone knows, I'm alone today. It's just me alone in my shirt. So if you were looking forward to Ishi or anybody else, I'm sorry they're not here right now. Anyways, a lot of the music that you are hearing, hopefully a lot of the music that comes up, it's on shuffle, but hopefully a lot of the music that comes up is some of the newer Lucy City. Brief little spoiler for you. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about Lucy City. You already know the gist of it. You know it's my music project. You know it's something I started just with craziness in mind and freedom in the heart, all that sort of stuff. So 4 years ago, me and my friend released our first album. Lucy City used to be me and another partner. They've just, throughout time, things have happened, and it's just become my little creation that I keep going with. But 4 years ago, we released an album called They Should Pay Us to Eat This Shit. Kind of a vulgar, abrasive name. Apologize to anybody out there who doesn't care for that sort of thing. The name, of course, as a lot of things I do, is in fact a reference to Peep Show, the show Peep Show. And it just seemed like at the time a very funny name to have for a first album, you know. I think a lot of bands' first albums, they should pay us to listen to it, you know. You're getting there, you're getting out there, you shouldn't. Some bands charge a lot of money for their first album, and to me that just doesn't make sense. And a lot of albums anymore are so short, it does get lost on me. Not a very super long album. It was a couple tracks. I think when we had it ready to release, the album was only like 3 or 4 tracks. So the day of, I remember I made 2 or 3, 4 songs just to have on the album. Because like I said, I think albums should be a little more, there should be more music in them. They shouldn't be so short. I've grown on to prove that in my music, as a lot of these earlier albums were shorter. But, you know, they worked out for the time for what they were, so we'll accept them. Lots of fun tracks on the first album. I know Catastrophe, a lot of people have liked that one. It's just a drum set that just goes crazy for a while, and then insane again, then crazy, and it's just a fun little jam. Really fun one to make. My personal favorites on the album, goodness, I really like Tell 'Em Freddie Cynthia. That one I made the day of. I remember making that one, and it was a fun one to make. And right when I was done, cut, print, this one's going on the album. And then another one I really like on here is actually Rubber Rampage. That one I had made at a friend's house, actually. And it was one of the first times I ever took my kit traveling with me. So I got a laptop bag. I put my laptop in it. I put my mini keyboard. I put notebooks. I put all the stuff I might possibly need in this little, computer laptop bag. I'm not driving. I walked to his house. I skated rather. I was skating to his house, and across the street there was a cul-de-sac, and there was a lot of people dressed in black and crying. I could only assume they were mourning. It was a sad sight to see, of course, but I was skating by, minding my own business, and I hit a rock. And because I had this giant bag in my hands that had weight, the weight finally caught to the bag, and it threw me off my skateboard, and I slid a little bit, and I heard all those people laughing, and I wasn't even mad, because clearly they needed something in that day to break up all the tears and stuff. So I'll never forget that, skating to my friend's house that night. Nothing broke. Surprisingly, I lost my laptop later randomly from other things, different laptop, but surprisingly did not break from that, and that is probably the best thing to come out of that. So I went to my friend's house, and we were just doing things, messing around, and I made Rubber Rampage. which was just fun. It had the really big rubber band sound, and it had the kind of simple drumming, but the drummer essentially is taken away in that song by a force. There's always little stories to a lot of songs, but I mean, they only make sense to an insane mind like me, so if you understand, you might not want to. Just Picked Up was a big collaboration between me and the first guy. It was a song we made. Just a little audio journey on some things that we were into in those days. And then, sorry about the squeaky chair, everybody. This is getting wild right now. We'll try not to make it squeak anymore. It's my promise to you. All right. We got Tienda Mexicana. Spaz Funk is another really good song on there. Symphonic Dro. And then Mind is Stars rounds it out. Mind is Stars I also made the day of, I remember. I just made the little backing beat, did a little piano improv on top. It's one of my favorite things to do in Lucy actually, is to make the beat and then go over with a different instrument, do solos, do all that fun stuff. Mind is Stars has gotten some pretty decent reviews, and even now when I listen to it, I think, wow, for a person that knows nothing about piano or how to play piano, it came out coherent. Not great, but it came out coherent, it came out flowing, it came out sounding pretty good in my opinion, a little departure from what I usually do. And then we move on to our next album. Now, I was having a debate in the car which album was actually the next album. I'm pretty sure it's Beach Party After a Plane Crash, which I call B-Pack. It was between that and Specimen 7. For the life of me in the car, I could not remember which was released first. I think it was Beach Party, though. Beach Party came out a couple weeks, just a little bit later. Same year, same everything as They Should Be Paying Us. And it's got a completely different sound, this album, and that's why it's called Beach Party After a Plane Crash, because a lot of the songs were just sounding a little more like that. They just sounded a little more beachy, a little more uppity, a little more consistent in that sound narrative. I think the first album was just an experiment through who are we, what are we capable of, and this one was a little bit of a more consistent narrative, which we have broken past that ceiling anymore. A lot of fun on this album. I remember we made it, and then we just kind of made a story going along with the song titles and what it sounded like, and so it kind of follows a narrative. A beach or a plane crashes at a beach, and people are sitting there, and while they survive, they just decide to see the best in the scenario and have a party. So they wake up on the beach, they start the salvage fires, the next song, exploring paradise. They have some lonely doubts about being there. They have appreciation for the ocean. They live that raft life. Stormtroopers are trying to leave the island, and they're on the raft, and there's Storm, and then there's ETX, which is their estimated time of delivery, basically. Tin Man Jam, one of my favorite Lucy ones. And then you have Baking Up on a Weech, I believe is a bonus track. If you go to Bandcamp, you get Baking Up on a Weech, which is just a joke on the name Waking Up on a Beach, which was our first song on this album. And this one, I think Tin Man Jam's probably the real takeaway. For me personally, that's the one I like listening to a lot. I like the art on it, and I think it's just a fun song. That might be the one that sounds like it's choking a bird. That's what I've heard from that one, and I find that kind of funny. And, sorry, here, trying to do multiple things at once is never smart. Especially because this episode's very special in the sense that I did not write a script for it. That's right, I'm nodding appreciatively at my microphone, so you know. This one's all straight improv, and we're seeing how it goes right now live. So yeah, that album, it's got a fun sound. It's just got a fun little bop, fun thing to put on. Another kind of shorter album. The album artwork, the first album, the album artwork came from a party where we were allowed to draw on their table, and that's what came out. The second one, same character, Propeller Nose from Other Side. This was a giant beach artwork that my friend, we went to Pismo Beach, and he made that Propeller Nose that you see. The one in the background is the one I made, but yeah, he definitely went all for it there, and of course I had to use that as the album cover. It just fit the ideas perfectly. And then we get to Specimen 7. Thought I'd forget, didn't you? Specimen 7 is a reference to a Super Jail episode, Specimen 7, and that was kind of the idea for the album. It's to have just be experimental, and 7 tracks, was what we agreed upon beforehand. And I think what I really did when I ran with the totem on this one was I tried to make longer songs than typical. A, because I knew there was only going to be 7 on the album, and like I said, I like to fill up the space. And B, it's just kind of fun and interesting to try to manipulate a song for as long as it can go. Because they never really have to stop. You could make a song infinitely with just one song and never get tired of it. That's what we were experimenting with. That's the Specimen 7. The artwork on this one was a collaborative drawing between me and an old friend. It's one of those ones, they draw something, then I draw something. She was an actual artist, so you could probably tell which parts she drew and which parts I scribbled on a page with a pen. On this album, of course, we got piano. It's a little fun piano thing. Some Costanza, just playing with drums. 8-6. Any song with, as weird as it works out, any song with a date for the number, sometimes that would just be the name it originally got, and a lot of times those names would just become a standout song to me. So they would just sometimes keep the date name, or I know in the files, if I do find them, if I go back and I look up a date, one that's got a date for the name, it's going to be a full song, and it's going to be a fun ride, because it's beyond me how that always worked out. We move on to Country Sellout. Called it that, sounded like a kind of a country song, but I'm not very country, so it was a little sellout-ish. Foolish Dream Army, to me, was a narrative, just a story of somebody living life in the streets, getting shot down. At one point, I tried to make the sound like he gets shot down and goes on, and another attempt at longer music. We have 8-9, Insomnia's Nightmare, another one, just a good fun song to make. And then we have probably the best song on the album, and not just because it's the last and you're almost done, but it's called Rob Dog Debut. And the fun thing about this song is it was a collaboration between me and my nephew, who was probably 4 or 5 at the time. And all I really did was make a backing beat, and I handed him the keyboard and I said, play, make some music, have some fun. And yeah, he had a blast. He was just hitting different things, trying different things. That's why it sounds so chaotic, so rambling. It's literally a kid figuring out music, which is a lot of what Lucy City is about, huh? So that one's always going to have a special place in my heart for that reason. And nephew's definitely getting older as time allows, but I'm going to have to get him back in here, see what else is going on there. He might outstage me this time. I don't know if I want anybody else in the studio now that it's becoming something. Now, this is the debate I really should have had. What album is next? Apparently, I released a lot of albums in that 2014 span. I kind of knew I had, but yeah, there was a dip for a while. But I think if we're going in order, I think 2014 was technically the 4th one. And as you all know, 2014 is my favorite album that Lucy City has ever made. Even with the ones that we're going to mention later, right now still, 2014 lives on in my heart as the most consistent, the most outlandish, yet commercial Lucy City album. And it's got a lot of fun on it. The first song I actually had in mind for it was called Spiked Oasis, but that's what became Pylon Chomp. I'm just confusing the masses right now. So basically, Pylon Chomp was a song I had been sitting on for a while, and I really liked its style. So a thing with that song was I was trying a lot with distortions and delays, reverberation, stuff like that. So that became a lot of the themes for the album. And you especially hear a lot of the distortion later in the drums and a lot of the delays and everything. So then I wrote Spiked Oasis, and then it just felt like it worked perfectly into Pylon Chomp. And then wrote Earl of Pembroke, Through the Lion's Mouth, and Voyage des Fins. I wrote those all probably around the same day, same 2 days. It was just a good couple days of making music. Voyage des Fins, Virgil Frigio, Wraith, Charcot, Hitinji, Vestron, Goldthwait. There's so many good songs on this. I think the first 5 songs are very consistent with each other, and then the other 5 kind of follow a different mind state, but in the same brain, if that makes sense. I won't listen to this. I won't know if it makes sense or not, so therefore I won't fear it. A lot of fun. Vestron's got a really fun drum riff at the end. Goldthwait is just an insane song with the crazy bass and just how heavy it gets, and then the nice little piano. Yeah, this whole album, I remember while making it, it was just fun, and I could hear that it was something else and something special. And then as soon as I finished it, it's like, oh great, how am I ever going to do that again? A lot of the names on this album were just cryptic. We just wanted to, you know, make it a little more artsy, maybe. The album art on that one is just a drawing from an old notebook I had. I actually worked really hard to make album artwork for it. It just turned out the sizing wasn't right, and I was just dealing with issues with uploading it and stuff. I believe was the problem with that, so that's why we ended up using the album art that we did. I think it's really cool though, the hands looking at hands sort of thing kind of fits the what am I listening to crazy sort of vibe that I like to think that we pressure on. Man. So my order I think might be out of order here, but the next album I do believe was Et Maintenant. It's French. I don't speak French. I made it French because I like French at the time. I still like the language of French. I believe the album says, and now that you know, dance. Could say something completely offensive, something completely off the wall and rude. I don't know. I don't think Google would do that to me, but next we had Et Maintenant. This one had, this one was a little more just pulling songs from different areas. There was not necessarily a narrative or being as like concrete togetherness as 2014. So we had songs around like Boat Fiend. I really love Boat Fiend. SNES Loop, just like it sounds. I want to make a Super Nintendo sounding loop. Dre at the Dentist. That song just sounded like a drill and kind of had that Dre sort of spiccato. There's instruments in there, and they sound like Dr. Dre. I guarantee you. Larler is one I actually really like, and I just like that name. I say Larler a lot to myself. I don't know why. Sometimes I just say it over and over again. Maybe it's a tumor. I don't know. Loopa Doopa Soda Cracka, just a little loop. Goes Freestyle, aka 2BC. I think that meant to be continued because a lot of early Lucy City, especially, I made in mind of just having rappers rap over it. So some stuff was specifically just rap loops, and nothing's really come to fruition there. But if you ever want to rap to Lucy City, throw us on the production credit, and it's yours. And we're getting to it. We've had one rapper. We'll get to that in a second. Next song was Keys for Freeze, just another little riff for people to freestyle over, rap over, do whatever they want. And then we have an untitled raw version. I don't know why it's called the raw version, as if there was ever going to be a super mastered. I don't know why I called it the raw version. Featuring Mike the Great, good friend, very good rapper. I remember he wrote that verse there listening to the beat and took, I think, 2 takes. And he didn't find the first take. He just said, I want to do this again. And he did it again, just right like that. So we got some fun lyrics on there, some good flow. And the first... let me think about this for 1 second. I'm pretty sure he's the first person to ever rap to Lucy City beat. He's for sure the first rapper ever on a Lucy City album. And plus, I believe he is the first vocals and lyrics ever in a Lucy City album. Which is cool. He's got a good voice for it. Lucy City has given some other beats to other conglomerates like Lifted Late Night. I've had Alexers rap over some beats there. So, I've had some friends come in and rap over things, but the interest wasn't as much as I thought it might be for what I'm doing. But yeah, no, I love Mike to death. Hopefully, I would love to get back in the studio again. Of course, I lost mostly everything with my laptop, so I don't necessarily have the means to record vocals anymore as I talk into a microphone. Yeah, I just realized that. So we could probably figure out something to get everything on there. But we'll have to talk to him, see what he's up to, see if he even is still down with the city. Who knows? You can't force people to like it, right? Next we go to Today's Days. And I remember Today's Days. It may not kind of start, but with Today's Days was... I was at work, and it just, in my head, I said, I want to release music today. I want to release an album today. And I knew I had music for it. Usually I have music, just on the wait ready for me. whether I just haven't wanted to release it yet or just haven't found its project yet. So I remember Today's Days, the narrative was just my life through the track listing. So you wake up, you're dreaming and scheming. You have your last REM cycle, Up and Atom, you're finally up and doing it. Leather Whip, you're doing it. Flicker is a street name. It's a street that me and my friends skateboard a lot on because it's a good connection to get to the trail and stuff. Riding Dirty, we riding dirty on the skate trail. 323 Who This? Why it's called 323, I don't remember. That was just the original file name for the song, is all I can recall. I don't know why it was 323. And next we have All Right, All Right. It's another fun song. So 323 Who's This? All Right, All Right. And then Glow Like a Ruby, I think, is by the time I get after work. News Beach, watching the news, meditating with Ohm. And then just a fun little Stand By Me cover. I really like the song Stand By Me. I like a lot of old music and stuff. But I self-taught myself Stand By Me. And so I recorded it just to have something to, prove I'm capable, but just don't want to. Then we have Funky Funk, the Anchor Nose theme after that. Funky Funk was a really fun song. It used to actually have lyrics, if you can believe that. We lost that version. And it was just a robot voice saying, you got that funky funk, what? I heard you brought that funk. Kind of ridiculous stuff like that, me freestyling for 3 minutes or however long it is. It was really fun. On this album, though, Leather Whip is a song I'm really into. All Right, I'm really into. News Beach, super into. And Glow Like a Ruby, I'm super into. Glow Like a Ruby, I remember when I made it, I was just listening to it on a loop, and I was like, I really like this loop. It's really fun. I really like this song. And I went to go save it, and my computer started crashing. And so I got this knots in my stomach, and I was like, uh-oh, this isn't going to be good. So I remember I had taken a little recording of it for Snapchat, sent that out to everybody with an RIP. Because to me, I was never going to hear that song again. It had been saved. I kept hitting Control S, hoping something would happen. Had to exit out of my computer, completely restart. And when I went back in, it, by some luck miracle, had saved. And there was nothing missing. It had saved a current version somehow in a way that never works. So I always feel blessed to have that one. It's just a fun one I like listening to personally. Ohm has my first vocals on Lucy City, I believe. It's just me, stuff like that. I'm not much of a singer, as you can probably tell from the monotone drone voice, but I do like singing. And we'll get into that here in a little bit, I do believe. So apparently that was 2015, so we're looking at the second year of Lucy, and I've released all those albums so far. And then I think started the break. A little break from just music and, with no returns on emotional investment or anything. It's easy to just say I'm done. Who cares? I don't care. If they don't care, try to act tough, try to act cool, that sort of thing. So I think what kind of brought me back into music a little bit more is I had a friend let me borrow some focus medication, which I probably could have taken today. Sorry, I heard a faucet going outside. Nobody's home, so if you guys hear anything, just be on the lookout for that. So I was on focus medication, and I wanted to make a 2-hour song, which in my head I could easily do in one day. Turned out to be a 15-minute song. I could have kept it going, but I wanted to release it that day and stuff because it was a girl who had given me the medicine, and I wanted to show her it, and I wanted to try to flex a little bit, and worked out in the end. Her and I are together, so it worked out. Not that she's the biggest Lucy City fan per se, but it can't all be me. So, released the song Ice Cream Eyes. It's a fun song. I think it sounds a lot. It's got a lot of a little more like video game sounding stuff. A little Shinji Hoso, a bit really chaotic with it. It's switchy. You wouldn't believe I'm on focus medication with the way that song changes like every minute to something new and crazy and wild. And that one was a good practice on adding vocals. So I just had a Speak and Say online, and I would just use that. And that's where I got all the people talking and saying all the crazy things. Everything they say I just wrote spur of the moment while making the music, and it just sounded like it fit. Oh, the artwork on the last couple were all just stuff done by me. Et Maintenant was one I drew specifically for that. Today's Days was something in an old notebook, and Ice Cream Eyes was one that I had sitting around as well. An old painting I had done, so I just used it as the album art, which is how it works a lot in Lucy City. And so then I think at that point I kept making music, but I said I don't want to release it anymore. If no one's listening, I'm just making a fool of myself. It's very easy to get in that mind state. So I stopped releasing music, and then at a certain point, I was just listening to it again and going back and listening to some tracks I'd been making, and it was really fun again. And I was having a lot of fun listening to stuff. So I said, you know what? No one's listening. What does it matter? I can release more, and it's, nothing's going to be gained either way. But if I release something, at least something was at least a little gained, as opposed to otherwise. And so then we got the album just last year, 2017. So yeah, about a year off of working on this stuff. And then came back with the album called Gone. And at the time, Gone was the last album. I just put on, it's a 27 tracks. It was a long one. It was Here They Are, I'm Out of Here. The album artwork was just something from a notebook. You got songs like Frame of Mind, which some people think runs a little long, but I think that was the idea of that song, that was my frame of mind, is just that gobbledygook in my head and everything. Then we have Let Them Eat Cake. Then we have Grick. Grick is fantastic. Grick is fun all over song. Not that all of them aren't. Let's be real, people. We go to Head Jank. Next Exit I really like. Heart in a Drought. That One Day. Going a little out of here, Blood Cleats. A couple of those songs I was making for an album I was going to do with an ex of mine. We were going to do a fun I make music, she sings. She brings some talent into this world of ambition. So I was making beats for that. She respected Lucy City and wanted them to be Lucy City. She didn't want me to make anything special for the occasion. So a lot of those songs ended up on here, like I just said, The Heart in a Drought, That One Day, Blood Cleats, a couple more, I'm sure. We're going from that project, but one day, she just said she couldn't do it, didn't want to do it. It's fine. Life happens, so I just decided to use them for Lucy City. I think that's probably why I actually released this, wasn't it? Because I was really excited to release that album, and it kind of fell through, and so I'm not one to be defeated. Wake Up Chang's another song in there. Bright Sponge, if I'm not mistaken, Bright Sponge has one of the most consistent good solos I think I've ever done on a song. When I listen to it and I don't remember that I made it or it doesn't sound like me, there's probably something good and special in it. More of Heroin. There's a lot of heroin themes on this because a lot of the songs were talking about her. Or I don't remember why, but a lot of them just became heroin names because I thought it was funny. And then a lot of haunted names just ever since then. We got Spook Rift, Haunted Arcade. Schmorg is another good one that's got a really good solo, I do believe. Upright Downstairs got some fun bass. Tomb Low is just a little... Tomb Low is pretty groovy too. Symbol is that. I think it was a song just using a lot of symbols is why I called it that. Haunted Still. Our Powers Interlude and Or Powers Combined. Madcap Campaign, you may have heard about this. I think it was on the last podcast. Ish and I were talking about how I made a song where I sampled me squeaking a water bottle. That's the song, Madcap Campaign. Then we have Oh the Horror, Dop Drown, which is another good... Or Dop Drown's got the really heavy bass that I really like, and the drums, and it's got the marble. 425 comes up next. I really like 425. It's called that because it was my 425th song I ever made, and that one's always really special to me. At one point, I was going to get 425 tattooed on me because I thought it meant something, and now it doesn't, so... then we have Starring, Heroes and Heroin again, and then Gone Again. A very good song that just said how I felt about all of this. And like I said, Gone was supposed to be the last, so it was Gone Again. Here's the blip. I've been gone. I'm sorry. I've been drunk. I've been gone. I've been gone by not being here. A lot of reasons I've been gone, but I'm leaving again. I'm going out again. But then life happened. I think I got really charged up by that release, and so a couple months later, a couple weeks, couple hours, I don't know, the Philibata Sonata came out, and it's another one I really like. It's another fun one. It's got stuff like Crusades. Crusades was another song I intended once to be 2 hours, but let's be real, people. I don't know if I'm getting to that 2 hour song anytime soon. Song Chairs, Slippery Tin is fun. I think the music tin is probably my favorite instrument in Ignite that I've used. You hear it in a lot of songs, so that's probably not crazy for me to say that. Dribble Dorp, good song. BCXXX, really good song. Bowsock and Rapture both came from my excuse me, infatuation with Bioshock. They're supposed to sound kind of like it. They're kind of in the mood and headspace from that. It's supposed to sound underwatery. Who knows? Some of these words I don't know how to pronounce well, and I don't remember what they mean. I love looking up word porn, but clearly I don't remember everything. Quaserenia? Ah, goodness. I'm glad those ones are really good songs. I'm glad they're not my favorite Lucy City songs, because I wouldn't be able to pronounce them. Keyboard is kind of a syllabus for Lucy City. They just talk about a lot. What does a city mean? What is music? What does all this mean? I thought it was a fun little explanation of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Then we go into Macy's, an old song I made, a good favorite amongst friends. It's just a fun... like it sounds like you're in a Macy's department store or something, or watching an ad, so that's why it's called Macy's. It was a fun one. Waterfallow came next. That one's a good little one. Starlight. That one's debatably my favorite off Bah-weep-Graaaaagnah. That one's really fun to me. It's got that kind of dancey vibe after some weirdness. Gaga, an old song that I wrote that reminded me of Lady Gaga a bit for one reason or another. Castle Jack, another old song I had been sitting on that I just kind of liked it. Misnomer, I believe that was another one of me doing like an ohm, and I think that one gets a little more chaotic. And then we have Abraham. It's hard to say. That one was marimba backwards. And as you can tell, coming up here soon, I don't have very clever names for marimba music. I just use the name marimba in some way. The album art on that was, I used to have a little draw tab my friend let me borrow. So that was just a picture I had on my computer from that, and I had to frame it weird. And my biggest regret on that's not having the orange line come out to the bottom and say Lucy City, wheep-Graaaaagnah. But other than that, I kind of like that none of the albums really have my name or, all that stuff. It's, if you know, you know. And that's all I know. So yeah, after wheep-Graaaaagnah, I didn't feel like I did after Gone. After wheep-Graaaaagnah, I felt like a little comfortable with it again, and like this might be something I'm into. So I kept kind of making music and stuff. I do believe it was around wheep-Graaaaagnah. I was working on a new album. I was going to do space jazz or something crazy, and I think that's when my laptop decided to croak. Then I didn't make music for a while again. Then I found out I could make music. So let's get to the spoiler, okay? I released 3 albums last night. As the 10th album, I released 3 of them. Because I had a lot of old music. I had salvaged my old laptop a little bit to where I could get in, and I pulled off a lot of old songs that hadn't been released from that era, which was a lot of fun. And just kept looking in there. I made a couple new songs with the Ableton board I had, but as stated before, I do not like the Ableton board. It doesn't feel like I'm making music. It just doesn't feel as consistent and fun as having a little keyboard. And I don't know that I necessarily want to jump back into the mini keyboard realm. I do have a regular size 66 key, I believe, keyboard, so it's a little small, but I've got that I'm going to be practicing on and working on music on that, and just not making music as I used to. So we'll start off with Disappointment. It was the first album I released yesterday. The album artwork was the actual album artwork for 2014 I mentioned earlier, actually. It was based on a drawing I made, and I liked the drawing, so I made a cardboard cutout of it, and it just didn't quite come out looking right and stuff, so I shelved it at the time. And thought it'd be perfect for Disappointment. I called it that because it sounds like disappointment, and with it being the 10th album and me hyping it everywhere, I really want it. Here's the bird getting choked here in a little bit. I had an idea for this album for a while for Disappointment, and since it was the 10th album, I was like, oh, this would be funny. So basically, it's 5 tracks, or so it may seem. First track I ever made, that's legit. Beach Punk, B-Pack Demo, Ever Maddening Headache, which is a horrible song. Don't listen to it. It's one that got stuck in my head, and I can't shake it anymore. And then ends with Sound Noise. The reason I love this album is because it looks like 5 tracks, but once you download it, you get 20 extra tracks, and they're just loops, and mostly loops and other things that just weren't going to fit on my other 2 releases. So first track I ever made, we get down to like Haunted. It's a different Haunted song, so it's called This, Not the Other, because I have so many songs called Haunted. Gentle Hands Loop, Der Ofen, Maeve, Sees Her, Toe Dip Club, DL88, Just a Test, Hyperdrive Scatterbrain, Perka, Club Child, HH Church, Blessed Are the Dark Eyes, Gui, which is my first me actually playing guitar and recorded it once, and I just had a file of it, so I threw it on there. Next song is MacGyver, which the drumming is all me tapping on a desk. So it's a little bit of MacGyver music. I used to make MacGyver music, which I would call it, and I would use rubber bands, just use anything for percussion. It was a fun time. Then we got the 5 That's a Rap. Some you heard, some are, one of those is from Mike. The rap with Mike, it's just the instrumental and everything. So yeah, that one's just a lot of loops, fun stuff like that. Now the second release, this one was my favorite. This is the one I was excited for. I had our album artwork from a long time ago that I wanted to use for it for whatever reason. It doesn't really fit the narrative, but this one is called Snakes in the Grass. And, excuse me, this is more of the main one. And it starts off with a conversation amongst friends. Goes into Abandoned Ship, Headache Highway. Last night when I was walking listening to it, just a little something came on. That's track number 4. And I didn't recognize it as my own because it was playing that flute and stuff and a little more coherently than I typically would. And so I didn't think of it. I was like, this is a good song. And then it jumped right into Edo, which is one of my favorite Lucy City songs ever. It's been around for a long time. When I heard it go into that, I just got so happy, and they worked so well together, and it was a good time. Then we got Blix, we got Sufi, we got the Monster Mash, another one, Lily Pad's Mad Adapter. That's another old one for those that know. SCJ, Small Cock Jonks. I decided to name one of my favorite tracks, probably my favorite track right now at least on the whole album, after my boy Jonks. So SCJ on that. Then we just have a little interlude with the Tonk. We go into another old song, Psycho's Delicacy, which was one of me playing guitar but with a backing beat I had made. I believe so, yeah. Jazz Lip, Back Porch Acid is another one that's becoming a favorite on this album. I think that one and Small Cock Jonks were like really, really good showing at what I tried to do, especially with drums and stuff and how kind of random and sporadic they are. I think that came out really cool. Festival of Recrimination comes up next. Then we got Drumgrats, called that because it sounds like a Rugrats song with a lot of drumming, let's be real. Norm was a newer song that I had made with the Ableton and everything. Same with Kabunk, I'm pretty sure. Piano must have been an older one. Come On, Let's Dance. The Pen is Mightier Than the Sword, or also known as Penis Mightier Sword. And then this album ends with Blessed Atmospheric Model. This one's a really good one. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got some old, it's got some new, it's got its own little style and flair. And so those are 2 of the new albums I released. And you know what? We didn't even talk about the 9th album yet, did we? As you all know, earlier this year we talked about it a bit. I released an album called Decathect. The album artwork on that is just a picture I took out my friend's car the day I was releasing it. That one, the original idea was to take all the old songs off of SoundCloud and stuff that had been sitting around for a while and just put them on an album just so I could have them on my phone in an easy way, basically. So that's why that's why I did that one, but a lot of the tracks didn't transfer, so I ended up using a lot of new tracks. So it only was like four or 5 old tracks and then a lot of new, so it became a fun new album. Starts off with D's Rats, Rock With It, Quick P, Park Kids is a fun one, Melt, and Fireball Stance are 2 old ones, and Duckington. Those 3 in a row are 3 of the old ones that I really liked. I'm glad they're on there. Fields was a new one. Hant was a new one. L, Kerf, Came Out Running were new. Belligerent Capacity was new. And Lola Trice might have been old but unreleased. But that's Decathect. That was the 9th album. That was one I released earlier this year, and that's after I released that one, I knew I wanted to release more, especially after I found old music and stuff and got access to the tracks I was going to put on Decotect. I was able to release more albums this year because of all that. And so some of those were on Snakes in the Grass, I believe, got a couple of those. And then this last album here, I'm not sure if I remember. But let's look at this last album. Another one cut from the same cloth. This one's got album artwork by Ishi. Y'all know Ishi from the last episode. Ish_dish is his hashtag or his @ sign. I don't know what you call these. I gave up that life a while ago. He gave me some album artwork for it. I want something a little darker, as this will be my last album for a while. That's why it's called USR Adieu. It means until some rebellion or until she returns, something like that. As you know, I've talked before about writing an album called Some Rebellion, and it's me on my actual piano and stuff. And I just want to focus on that, and I knew if I kept making Lucy as I'm currently making it, it's just going to add too much mud into the stream, and I didn't want that. So My First Time was one of the first songs I ever wrote. Like, the other one was the first song I ever made. This one was one of the first songs I ever actually like thought about and like could actually play and redo and stuff like that. Then we go into Piano Morris Rex, just a little mess around on piano there. Cut While Shaving, original name for the album. That one's a fun one. That one's a really fun one. Hoso, Slamev, Cult of Snorlax, there's an old one. That one was made on Pro Tools, actually, so that one's a different vibe. I think Slamev, then, I noticed last night, that's why I put them next to each other, is Slamev sounds a lot like it, but they're made different times, different mind states. It's just coincidence. But they're made from two different softwares, so it was really interesting for me to compare and contrast that. Not T. Sorry about that one. It's a little long. Some of these loops were old loops that I had cut long, and now, like, if I was the long version and I kind of forgot to uncut them or didn't really have the means to cut them. So some songs, especially on Disappointment, a couple of them are just overly long, and I do apologize for that, but, you know, you can always press next, I guess. Chaotic Ramblings comes next. Marimba. I'm guessing there's a marimba in that one. Pegged myself well there. Headache 3. I believe every album so far of the last 3 has had a Headache song in it. That's just how the names came out. Then we have Intermission. Colorful Insanity was one that blew my mind last night, and I think it works well with the album art very well. It's one I'm very proud of. It's all over the board, as you might imagine, with that, but I liked it. We have Flute next. Just having fun with the flute sound. Malo, originally called Plow. Don't know why it's called Malo. Didn't know why it was called Plow. Nasal Drip, I had a lot of fun making. That one was, it may have been the last song I actually made on that board. I don't quite know, but it was a really fun one to make. Clip Clop, Clap Click, I think was an older one. JFD was an older one. We got Alpha Lab, Beautifity, Aquatic Carnival. These are some older songs that haven't been released there. Cacro, and then Up in the Hair, Adieu. Just saying goodbye, a lot of stuff. You know, real fans, real people into the band and stuff know what I mean when I say I'm quitting and that this is over and I'm done. Of course I'm not done. I'm just kind of ending the current way I've been doing things. Just to try a new way. I mean, now I've released 12 albums. Looks like I've released 185 tracks total, which I remember when I listened to Green Day, and at one point on my iPod I had 100 songs from them, and I just thought it was crazy that they had that many, and that many could exist by one band and all that, and then always wanting a band and stuff. To have 185, it really means something to me. It's something special, and I'm proud of all of them. It's not everybody's style. I can understand that, but people need to understand it sounds exactly how I want it to. And I do actually listen to it, and I do groove it, and it does grow on me a lot. A lot of times I'll make an album with songs I don't recognize as much, but then you know, how can you forget? You know what I'm saying? So I think we've gone over just a quick overview over everything Lucy City. Like I said, it's the 4-year anniversary. I just wanted to talk shop and, you know, celebrate by doing more work. But yeah, we'll get this one in. I don't know when you're going to hear this podcast, probably this Thursday. But if not, you know, the information's all the same. Any comments or questions, you know, you can always comment in the field down there. My email, soitsweexile@gmail.com. If you ever want to use my music, I'd love to get in contact with you. Use it for apps, use it for videos, use it to rap over, all of that stuff. I don't really want compensation per se. I just want production credit, and if you ever did make it huge, just don't forget my name. As the man in the shirt, never forget. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to talk about this week. Just been having a lot of bittersweet fun in the city. And yeah, I released all 3 yesterday. I was going to do a 3-day plan. I was going to do a 3-month plan. I had a lot of different theories on how I was going to do these albums, but this just felt right. So I think 1 for 12 is always going to be its own special Lucy City. And then we're just going to be moving to a different part of this city. And hopefully we'll be hearing a lot more and seeing more. My idea is not to record as much, especially recording the way I have been. So hopefully... hopefully I'm doing live music and getting it out there in some way. Maybe we'll even play live music, do a live setup, write a live song on the man in a shirt. Who knows? Well, trying to think what else. Lucy City merch. I've got business cards. If you want business cards to hand out, I've made some magnets and some stickers and some pins in the past. Don't really have much of those left. Not that they're hot commodities. I was just cheap when I bought them. I don't know how many times I'm going to say and say that's about it. So I think we're going to cut it here. Thanks once again for listening if you did. I've been having a lot of fun with a man in a shirt. It keeps me out of trouble, keeps me sane, keeps me busy, keeps me all that good stuff. And hopefully there's some good in it for you as well. So we'll thank you, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye.